Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. By the time you're watching this video, the 11.05 update is arriving in just about a week from now. With the 20th anniversary update releasing a bunch of new collectibles and rewards for you to earn to celebrate 20 years on Azeroth. But this update also brings with it a ton of new improvements, from new ways for you to be able to catch up new alts with EXP bonuses, but also ways for you to catch up for all those characters and gear them out as quickly as possible, as well as a bunch of class revamps and changes to make our classes feel and play better, whether it is trying to really capture or recapture the class fantasy of certain hero specs or improve the talent loadouts for a variety of different classes. Among those, we also have other improvements for mostly quality of life things, such as better integration of the warband system, better time managing all of those different currencies that the game is going to be throwing out at you with all the new vendors for you to spend all of those currencies on. So for today's video, I really want to go over all of the different quality of life updates arriving with the patch 11.05 that are going to further improve the way that you interact with the game in the War Within expansion. As always, if you want to see more videos like these for the War Within, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe, but otherwise, let's dive right in. First of all, let's start out with one of the smaller quality of life additions, the one that every player is going to be able to basically notice as soon as the update goes live, and that is updates to transmogs. Ever since the warband system got implemented, it's so much easier to maintain all of your characters' different transmogs and collect mogs even if you can't directly wear them. Like, if I go to run a raid or a dungeon on my monk and I get a bunch of plate pieces, cloth pieces, and mail pieces, if I haven't yet added those items to my collections yet, they get added automatically even if I can't wear them directly. And they're trying to break apart even more barriers with 11.05. One of which is going to be class restrictions behind certain items, which you will notice that certain raids and certain instances still do retain some of the older class restrictions. Hellfire Citadel, for example, has a bunch of leg pieces that not only have an armor type restriction, which the game ignores, but there's also a paladin restriction, shaman restriction, hunter restriction, warrior restriction, and if you're not that class, some of those items are still unobtainable or you couldn't really add them to your collections appropriately. So now you can. All those restrictions, even if they are class-based and class-specific, all of them have been released as of 11.05. Another quality update is whenever you complete a quest, like let's say within Kaz Algar, on a character, that character, when they complete the quest, for the rewards of the quest, you only see the items relevant to the class and spec. So if you're a mage, for example, you may only see certain weapons as a reward, like a staff or a wand potentially, but on another class like a rogue, you would see daggers. On a warrior, you may see swords and shields, and likewise. So every quest that has a reward actually has a bunch of hidden, locked away rewards that you previously couldn't obtain unless you went back to redo that quest on a specific class in order to obtain some of those cosmetic looks. And now they changed it so whenever you complete a quest, all of those hidden rewards, quote unquote, are still added to your appearances even if you can't see them as a potential viable reward. In fact, all of the rewards from those quests are actually going to be applied to your account retroactively. So as soon as 11.05 launches, just for logging in, you'll be able to get all of those hidden rewards that you couldn't originally obtain by questing throughout the zones of Kaz Algar or all of the other older expansions whenever they did have any of those lockouts with the hidden rewards that you couldn't see previously. Another major quality of life update worth discussing is the bad luck protection when it comes to some of the newer content arriving with the 20th anniversary update, as this patch brings in a bunch of new content, from world bosses for you to slay, as well as a bonus to experience gains to level all characters, time walking dungeons, a ton of class updates, but also a brand new raid available during the 20th anniversary. And for me, the raid dungeon of Blackrock Depths is probably one of the most exciting updates of 11.05, as it brings in the Blackrock Depths original dungeon instance but revamps it into a large raid, where a lot more players can participate with it at once. And while they have a set amount of bosses that'll be the core bosses to this experience, they will also have some of the smaller encounters from the original Blackrock Depths that will function kind of like as mini bosses that you could fight in between of actual core bosses, with a ton of new loot to collect. And a lot of these items are actually pretty equivalent to the Nurubar Palace raid, as this raid is scaled in different difficulties from LFR, normal, and heroic, with a ton of new items that have bonus additional effects, which gives players so much more loot to collect, especially when you're trying to get caught back up in the Season 1. But also on top of it, to make that catch up even easier, they added some bad luck protection vendors to make that gearing journey even easier. As you delve through these raids, you'll be able to collect time warp relic coffer keys of 3 difficulties. You have the LFR, you have the normal and the heroic version of these coffer keys, and you'll be able to earn them by slaying bosses within the raid instance, though you can only have a maximum of 120 of these keys per difficulty. So think of 120 keys for LFR, 120 keys for normal, and 120 keys for heroic, which allows you to buy 3 guaranteed items from 3 different difficulties. So if you're coming back for the 20th anniversary and are excited to jump into Season 1, not only are you going to be able to get some guaranteed gear just for running the raid, but it also creates some bad luck protection for your character. So even if there are limitations on how many of these items you can purchase, you could at least get some direct upgrades for your character, which mirrors some of the gear vendors that we saw during the tail end of certain expansions, such as the Shadowlands and Dragonflight, with this vendor gear focus system being probably one of the best systems they've added in the game, and it's generally a system liked by many in the community, which allows 80 players returning for the 20th anniversary to be able to guarantee some of the best in slot items that you can now focus, work towards, and farm in order to gear out your character more efficiently. Now, another major feature of the 20th anniversary update is the addition of world bosses out within Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms. Some of these bosses did end up moving their locations for this update, but we still have the originals, such as Doomwalker, as well as Azurikos, the Dragons of Nightmare, as well as Lord Kazak. But also we have a couple of new additions, such as Shah of Fear, which can be seen way in the distance if I fly high enough. There he is. You could barely see him on the horizon, but it is the actual Shah, oh, not Shah of Fear, Shah of Anger rather, brought from Missa Pandaria into Teneris, but also Archivon, which is a world boss from Wrath of the Lich King. All of those bosses are going to be very similar to the original versions of those bosses. So like Shah of Anger, for instance, he's going to have an updated version of all of his items that are more relevant for some of the more concurrent gear in Season 1, but you also have some of the more familiar rewards, such as the Reigns of the Heavenly Onyx Cloud Serpent, which is going to give players that haven't unlocked this one from Mop Remix another opportunity to be able to unlock this rare and gorgeous mount to add towards their collections. To make finding all of these bosses easier, they've actually updated and put them up on your map. So if you are searching for any of these bosses, you can just zoom out on the map and see exactly where all of them are. Normally, players would have to integrate things such as add-ons or maybe use other external websites to track where all of these bosses are. However, there's been a pretty big push in the community to try to limit the need for add-ons within WoW. So with BlizzDevs adding the locations of these bosses on a base UI map, and even telling you the timers for things such as Dragons of Nightmare, where there are 4 dragons that can spawn in 4 different locations and are on a strict rotation, being able to pull up the map without the need for add-ons or external websites and see exactly where these bosses are and find them is a big quality of life improvement for this 20th anniversary update. You can even click on these bosses when you're in the same zone as those bosses, and the game will even show you and point to you exactly where they are, which makes it much easier to find, and that is something a lot of players want in the community to see. Less reliance on needing add-ons in order to be able to play the game, but also less reliance on weak auras, which hopefully they can continue working on when it comes to some of the future encounter designs when it comes to the next raid of the War Within expansion. The next feature is going to be one of massive functionality improvements when it comes to using professions and maximizing your value from professions, as well as the Warbound Bank within the War Within. Warbound Bank is fantastic because you can allocate different slots of the Warbound Bank for different items. So you can have one slot for all of the different professional reagents. Like maybe, for example, you'll go out mining and herbing out in the open world in Khazalgar, and then you'll take all of those reagents into the Warbound Bank and slot them there, so that your leather workers, your blacksmith, and whoever else that utilizes those gathering materials can then utilize them for the profession crafts. However, there's always a problem with the work order system because it wouldn't really recognize the Warbound Bank slots as actual materials that you can utilize. So every single time on your character, you had to go to the bank, withdraw all of those items, go back to the table, then do all your work orders, then go back to the bank to slot them back in. And basically with 1105, they're making it so that the work order system recognizes the Warbound Bank slots, especially the reagent slots. So you can now store all those reagents, hop on the character that's gonna craft some stuff, and then craft without having to do the song and dance between running between your bank, grabbing items, running to the table, crafting stuff, running to the bank, dropping the items off, which definitely took a little bit of time and wasn't all that intuitive. That's a pretty big functionality update when it comes to professions, and does finally make the whole Warbound system, at least regarding professions, a little bit more coherent and cohesive. Now, another smaller part of the quality of life updates is character management, as they're trying to improve it a little bit further. As part of the 20th anniversary, we're going to have a bunch of different XP buffs from the WoW's anniversary, 10% buff, but also on top of it, stacking Blessing of the Bronze Dragonflight 10% on top of it buff. And then we're going to have a couple other holidays, like there should be coming up a Hollow's End, and it should be overlapping at some point with the 20th anniversary. Actually, pretty closely, because it's releasing on 22nd. On top of the Warband buff that all characters get, up to 25, depending on how many max level characters you already have. And that's a lot of different stack and XP bonuses, which promotes players to create new ults. In fact, players right now can even go back and restore old characters to bring them into the limelight before the 20th anniversary. So there's going to be a lot more reasons for you to be able to play multiple characters, since catch up in 20th anniversary with all the new updates and all the new gearing bonuses is going to make gearing up a new character much easier. But then you need to be able to manage all those characters, and they're improving the character select screen, especially the search functionality, where they're adding a little bit more granularity where you can search by spec, search by class, search by realm, and they're improving that whole search functionality just a little bit more to make managing all of those new and upcoming ults a little bit easier. As part of the 20th anniversary, there's going to be a lot of reasons to spend the currency of the Time Warp badges. In fact, they're actually adding even new items to some of the other time walking vendors for expansions such as Wrath of Lich King, as well as TBC, and I believe also Cataclysm. But they're doing a big revamp for all those time walking vendors. So being able to pull all of the currency on a single character using the Warband system is going to be of utmost importance. So the next time you hop on another character, maybe when you're trying to level during the 20th update with all the XP bonuses, and you're looking through all the vendors and you want to be able to buy some of the newer items. You can transfer items a little bit easier, such as Time Warp badges, by going to the transfer section, and now you have a little button next to the actual amount to transfer for max. So in a couple of clicks, you can transfer all of that currency from one character to the next. You no longer have to actually type it up for every single one of your characters. But they're further improving the functionality of the currency system because, as you can see, this character only has access to a handful of currencies. What if there's another currency that I want to transfer over so that character can then go interact with a new vendor? In the currency section, you now have a new drop down that either shows you the character's currencies that they've seen or show all Warbound transferable currencies immediately. So if you want to transfer over some cash, some resonant crystals, undercoin, or any of the other older expansion currencies such as honor for maybe some of the early items. Maybe you're questing through the Dragonflight expansion and you want to buy some of the items that you might have missed over on the Quartermaster vendors, but now they're unlocked thanks to the Warband system. Or if you're running through some of the older expansions and you want to be able to transfer some of those currencies immediately, you could do so by simply enabling to be able to see all Warband transferable currencies, even if that character necessarily hasn't interacted with those currencies just yet. This change overall improves the UI and the functionality of the UI by giving you actual ways for you to be able to finally interact with all of these different currencies, and allows you to see them even if the character specifically hasn't interacted with them. It's a very small update, but it definitely improves some of the quality of life experience with managing currencies, which is why it makes the list. But with everything being said, as always, I want to thank all of you guys so much for watching this update, and I hope all of you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community if you've got more questions regarding 20th anniversary, as I'll definitely be making more guides in order to really maximize and squeeze everything out of the 11.05 update. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.